Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Schools, and we have a lot to talk about today. It is a Rico report, so it's always things we got to talk about, random ranks, opinions, but on top of all of the usual, we have to talk about Terry McLaurin and Carson Wentz future cap hits. How much money will they cost us per year for the remainder of their contracts? Also, we have some Madden player ratings and ranks. I'm actually very surprised and happy with where they have Terry McLaurin. And it's not even just his overall rank, but we're going to take a look at the rankings for receivers by hand ratings. Terry McLaurin's even higher there. And I'm just so glad he's finally getting a lot of the recognition that he's been deserved. Also, the Commanders signed 2 USFL DBs. And Madden also came out with their edge rusher rankings. So we're going to talk about Chase Young and Montez Sweat there as well. And then when further rankings come out, I'll eventually put that in another Rico report probably a few days from now. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, be on the lookout for my Friday live stream. We're bringing that back every Friday where we talk about everything basketball, music, anime, everything that's going on. This one's going to be very basketball centered because we haven't talked about all of the NBA free agency stuff that's been going down and where KD may end up going and stuff like that. So make sure you pull up every Friday for that. And of course, pull up every Sunday for the call-in show where I open up the phone lines and y'all call in, y'all ask whatever questions you have or give whatever opinions you have on the state of the Washington Commanders and everything, man. So make sure y'all pull up for the weekly live streams Friday and Sunday evenings. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, just a breakdown of Terry McLaurin's 3-year extension. It's worth $68.3 million with a $28 million bonus, $34 million guaranteed at signing, and $53.1 million through 2024. But the reason why most of y'all are probably here are for the cap hits. So 2022, it's a $7.3 million cap hit. That's this season, very light. 2023, which I'm really surprised about, is only a $10.7 million cap hit. That's also very, very light. Then 2024 is when we get hit with the $24.1 million. 2025 is when we get hit with the $23.6 million cap hits. But even by then, that would be a really good steal for Terry McLaurin. By then, especially after finally having a quarterback that can get on the ball, having supporting pieces that can distract defenses to where they're not double teaming him and game planning against him every game. By 2024, a $24 million cap hit is going to look like a crazy steal. He may not even be a top 20 paid wide receiver by then. People are going to keep resetting the market. You have Jamar Chase's coming up, Justin Jefferson. I mean, you have so many young, really good receivers that are just going to keep resetting the market year after year. So by the time we get to 2024, that $24 million cap hit, which is the highest of any Terry McLaurin year throughout this extension, will look like a huge steal anyway. And again, it goes down almost an entire $1 million by 2025. That's going to look like an even bigger steal by then. And then they found a way to finesse the contract, and the reason why we're not taking much of a cap hit any year until like later on, and even then by then it's not much of a hit anyway, again in comparison to what the market will be at that time and how good Terry McLaurin will be, how great his stats will be, how good of a player he'll be just in general. But the way they finessed it is to where 2026 he's going to be a $5.6 million dead cap no matter what, like regardless of whether we pay him more money, if he were to leave for some crazy reason, which I highly doubt will happen. But no matter what, there's like an extra almost $6 million worth of his contract that's going to hit us for cap in 2026, even though he's technically not signed through 2026. His deal ends 2025. So they found a way to get $6 of that million away from those other years so we can be able to make whatever moves we need to, because right now our 2023 cap space isn't looking too great. And so it's really good that potentially maybe that $6 million that's hitting us for 2026 was originally going to hit us for 2023, and I'm glad that we finessed it to be below 11 million, because again our 2023 cap space isn't looking too great. I may do a video breaking down our cap space situation this year and moving forward, and whether we'll even have the money to re-sign our own guys, Which guys are we talking about? We got to definitely talk about that as well, but also guys from other teams that we may want to shop in free agency for. Moving on, Carson Wentz's cap hits aren't that terrible. This year, he's technically the 6th highest paid quarterback. If we're talking on a per year basis, who's getting paid this year alone, he's a $28.3 million cap hit. Again, 6th highest in the NFL out of quarterbacks. Who knows if he'll even ever play like the 6th best quarterback. As long as he gives us top 15, we should be playoff bound easily with the team that we have around him and how weak the NFC is. So if that's an overpay right there, slightly, it's whatever. Maybe even before this season ends, more quarterbacks will get bigger deals and maybe that 6th rank will move down a few spots. But in 2023, he's a $26.2 million cap hit, and that's only ranked 14th out of quarterbacks. And then 2024, he's ranked 9th out of quarterbacks with a $27.2 million cap hit. But you got to remember, like, going to 2023, some quarterbacks aren't on contract. And definitely by the time you get to 2024, there are even more quarterbacks that are not on contract. So even though he's 9th, that's 9th out of quarterbacks who have deals going through 2024. That's not all quarterbacks total. So by the time a lot of the quarterbacks whose deals in 2022, 2023, 2024, by the time we get to that point, more guys will get paid. And of course, just like Terry McLaurin, the market will reset at the quarterback position. So I highly doubt he'll be 9th. He'll probably be 20 something. And this is all if we keep this going, because the way his contract is set up, as many of y'all know, technically this is the only season any of his money is guaranteed. So he has to go out there and ball out, because for us, we can easily just dip up out of his contract. The rest is not guaranteed, so that $26.2 million in 2023, we can just completely cut them, just release them, whatever. No dick cap, literally $0 dick cap. We lose nothing. Also 2024, same thing, that $27.2 million. If we wanted to just cut them, we could. So we'll see, but hopefully he balls out, and then we feel like it's just worth it to go ahead and pay him the money that he could be owed. And even his money this year, with him being the 6th highest paid quarterback this year, 2022, his $28.3 million, technically only $6.3 million of that is guaranteed. So yeah, man, again, by the time we get to 2024, that 9th, even if he does ball out and we feel like he's worthy of that $27.2 million, by then so many quarterbacks will have gotten paid. So many quarterbacks that aren't even in his ranking system because their contracts don't go through 2024. He will probably end up being 20th highest paid quarterback by then, maybe even lower than that. And of course, I'm a super talk about it. Now moving on, the Washington Commanders signed 2 free agents, cornerback Dewan Neal and cornerback Channing Stribling. But they also released 2 players to make room for those guys. They released cornerback Najoel Hill and Devin Taylor. So they released 2 guys, signed 2 guys. Dewan Neal is interesting because he was with us briefly in 2019 after going undrafted out of Shepherd University. Then he went on to play for the XFL's Guardians and the USFL's Generals. And then he ended up making a full circle right back to us. Again, his stint with us in 2019 was very brief. He was only here for a week. And we'll see if he has any potential, man, because even just his college career, he only had 29 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 interceptions, 3 passes defensed, and 1 fumble recovery. So he doesn't even have a big resume college-wise. But, and I'm going to have to go look at both of these guys' film from what they did in the USFL to get a better idea of how good they may end up being for us and whether or not they even have an honest chance of making the team. But I'm really hoping he did way more in the USFL than he did in college. And then Channing Stribling, another USFL player coming from the USFL Stars, and his background is a little bit more rich. He has a lot more to his resume from college. He has a lot more to his resume from the USFL as well. So I'm definitely more excited about Channing Stribling than I am Dewan Neal, but we'll see. Again, I got to go back and really look at some highlights, some film on both of those guys to give a true opinion. But at the same time, I wanted to go ahead and update y'all on the fact that we signed 2 corners and we released 2 corners to make room for those 2 corners that we signed. Moving on now for the fun part, the Madden NFL 23 rankings. Starting with Terry McLaurin, he is tied for 8th in overall rating for wide receivers in this upcoming Madden. You have Devontae Adams, number 1, of course, with a 99, Cooper Kupp, 98, Tyreek Hill, 97, D-Hop, 96, Stephon Diggs, 95, Justin Jefferson, 93, Mike Evans, 92, and then you have Terry McLaurin and Keenan Allen tied for 8th with 91 and Amari Cooper right behind them with a 90. But of course, with Terry McLaurin being tied for the 8th highest rated wide receiver, that means he's ahead of Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, even Jamar Chase, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Marquise Brown, of course. I mean, I feel like that's fairly obvious. Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper, who we already mentioned, CeeDee Lamb, for those of y'all that for some reason feel like he's already better than Terry McLaurin. And then you also have Mike Williams. So, hey man, Terry McLaurin, top 10 receiver. Is it confirmed? I know we don't usually trust Madden ratings, but I think they make a compelling argument, objectively. Not even just being biased as a Washington Commander fan, Terry McLaurin is that guy, for real. I mean, even look at the hands specifically. When you filter it to hands only and ranking them by their hands, they're catching. Devontae Adams is number 1 with the 99. Cooper Kupp tied for first with the 99. Stephon Diggs has a 98. And then Terry McLaurin is 4th all by himself with a 97 catching rate. Again, 4th. So that's ahead of all of the other great receivers. D-Hop, Hunter Renfrow, and Tyler Boyd are all tied for 5th. Amari Cooper and Tyler Lockett are tied for 8th. And Justin Jefferson is 10th with a 94 catch rating. So yeah, man, Terry McLaurin's finally getting some of the recognition he deserves. I mean, granted, I would prefer if the media felt the same way, because Madden has been pretty untrustworthy to say the least over the years, but I think they got this one right. And again, not even just to be biased because it's finally one of our players, but Terry McLaurin really is one of them guys, and he's had to do the most with the least. Out of all of the quarterbacks that were in the top 10, Terry McLaurin has easily, by far, had the worst quarterback situation. The only other receiver that's even like in the top 30 receivers that you could say even had a comparable quarterback situation is probably Allen Robinson. And you can argue, just based on statistics and how many different starting quarterbacks they've had in their career, Terry McLaurin's situation was the worst in the NFL, even worse than Allen Robinson's. So I think he's fully deserving of that top 10 overall receiver rating, because one of his best attributes is route running, and his hands are crazy. I mean, you can honestly argue maybe he has some of the best hands in the NFL when it comes to certain advanced statistics. I remember like last year or the year before that, he had like the most catches without a drop or something like that. I can't remember the exact statistic. And even just this past season, 2021, he had the most contested catches in the NFL easily, and it wasn't even like a real close second place guy like that. So again, doing the most with the least. I mean, because you shouldn't be leading the league in contested catches when you're also one of the best route runners. That just tells you how terribly inaccurate a lot of the throws thrown his way were. And then also, I mean, even just off the field, if there was a rating for that, he'd be a 99.9. Just never complaining, never says the wrong thing, does everything right, says everything right. The perfect role model, not a diva receiver. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then going to edge rusher, which came out today. You have Chase Young, 86 overall, tied for 35th, which I can't be mad at. I mean, he's tied with Arik Armstead, Brian Burns, and Zadarius Smith. And based off of what he did last year, I'm surprised they didn't have him lower, because, I mean, he wasn't really good even before the injury. It's understandable why they have him under guys like Matthew Judon and Max Crosby. Honestly, I feel like Max Crosby should be a little bit higher. And this is interesting because this is including linebackers as well, and not even just outside linebackers, but middle linebackers, because Devin White has a lower rating than Chase Young. So that's interesting. I think 35th is really good based off of what he did last year. I mean, I guess he's still riding somewhat of a wave and has some of the momentum Madden rating wise from his rookie season, so he's gonna have to go out there and ball out. And I think ultimately, of course, potential wise, he has 95 and above overall rating potential if he goes out there and does what we expect him to do, what we drafted him to do. And I think he may be able to do that. Maybe not this season, but once he's fully recovered and he's fully explosive, maybe the 2023 season and beyond. When we're going to the Super Bowl and everything, and he's one of the players carrying this. When we're having debates on who's the best player on the team, Terry McLaurin or Chase Young. And then you also have Montez Sweat, who's an 82 overall, which I'm also not mad at as well. Another guy with loads of potential. If we're talking potential, both of those guys have 95 overall potential and up easily. It's there. The athleticism is there. The potential is there. The ceiling is there. A lot of it's just technique, nuance, counters, and staying healthy, man. We need both of those guys to stay healthy and produce. We need stats. We need production. We need sacks, we need pressures, we need all of that. Last year was an off season for both of them. I feel like Chase Young, if anything, was slightly more disappointing. But at the end of the day, both of those guys need to ball out this year for us to truly have a chance of being a real threat in this really weak NFC. A lot of it's on Carson Wentz, but a lot of it is also on this defense being led by Chase Young and Montez Sweat on the outsides. And then lastly, before we get up out of here, Pro Football Talk came out with an article ranking all NFL teams in ticket revenue last year. And you know, Dan Snyder Snyder was cheating at, so I don't know how much that's affected. I'm pretty sure they took the Dan Snyder element out of it, so I'm pretty sure these are the actual real statistics. But the Raiders were first, which I'm not surprised because their fan base is really deep, plus being in Las Vegas. I mean, it was just one of those situations where if your team were playing against the Raiders and it was in Las Vegas, even that fan base couldn't wait to go. Like, a lot of people were like, if I can only go to one game this season, it's going to be in Las Vegas against the Raiders to watch my team play. So that's no surprise. And again, they also just have a really crazy fan base. I mean, they were literally dominating LA alone, not even just to mention Oakland, which is where they used to be based, for so many years. So that's no surprise. And then the Lions are dead last, but guess who's slightly above the Lions for 31st? Of course, the Washington Commanders. But hopefully if we go out there and win, Carson Wentz is exciting, our defense is dominant, and we start winning games, and we beat up on this relatively easy NFC. Technically nothing's easy in the NFL, but if we can beat up on this schedule and compete and win the games we're supposed to, surprise some people by winning some games that people don't expect us to win, and be a strong playoff contender, then maybe we can start to sell some tickets. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video, especially Terry McLaurin and Carson Wentz's cap hits, and Terry McLaurin and Chase Young and Montez Sweat's Madden ratings. And also, how do you feel about the 2 USFL cornerbacks that we signed? Definitely get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about all of that. And of course, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Again, make sure y'all pull up every Friday, 7 p.m., 7 to 9 p.m. for the broadcast, podcast, live show where we talk about everything. And then every Sunday, I believe it's gonna be from 6 to like 7:30 ish every Sunday. So make sure y'all pull up to that, and make sure y'all call into the show, ask whatever questions you have, or speak on whatever you want to speak on as far as the Commanders. I'm pretty sure with training camps coming up real soon, like July 27th, by the time we reach Sunday and we're doing that live stream, that will probably be what we're mainly talking about. So I'm excited, man. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.